evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Griffin. I am one of the ladies with the United Methodist Women's Group. And tonight I would like to introduce our speaker from Restore Innocence. And I'm going to read what she wrote as her way of introduction. Lindy Havens is Executive Director of Restore Innocence, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping those who have experienced human trafficking. She worked with young survivors in an aftercare center in Cambodia in 2006 and joined the mentor program at Restore Innocence in 2011. She became the director of that program and now is executive director. The mission of Restore Innocence is to aid victims of human trafficking in the rescue, restoration, and reintegration process by addressing their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. The organization supports survivors through restoration bags, such as this one right here, and the mentor program. Hope United Methodist Church is collecting items for the restoration bags, which will be given to law enforcement agencies for victims upon their rescue. Would you please go ahead and give a round of applause as Linda comes on?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is my mic okay?
Yeah. Yep.
We're great. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's just really an honor to be with you during this holy season, and it really warms my heart truly to know that this is where you're putting your effort this year, so thank you for that. You don't have to turn very many pages into your Old Testament. At the very beginning of Scripture, there's an incredible account, and it's of God speaking to a young woman who is alone, has been mistreated, is pregnant, and undoubtedly very afraid. And he says to her, I am the God who sees. And I can't imagine anything more powerful than these three words in the life of in the life of a survivor of trafficking. I see you. I see you not as a commodity, not as all of the awful names that you have been called, not as something forgotten or worthless. I see you as a girl with green eyes and brown hair who likes ice cream and dogs and is afraid. I see you. I see the pain. I see the anger. I see the questions. I see the fear. And I see the future. And it's going to get better, sweet girl. I see you. That's our heart, to let these survivors be seen. And your church is the voice of God in the lives of survivors around the country, and you have been over this past year as you've assembled these bags. It may feel like just clothing or a pair of socks or what kind of shoes again, right? But it's not. It's the message, I see you. And from that, restoration and healing can begin. So I want to just start by saying thank you for the work you've already done. And I want to just put myself in the place of the girls and the boys that I have the privilege of serving and say thank you for that. I'm going to take a little bit of time tonight to tackle the issue of trafficking in our city and state. I know that you had a great speaker last week and some to come, and so I don't want to be redundant with that work. I'd like to spend the majority of our time talking more about the aftercare services that Restore Innocence provides. But in case perhaps you weren't here or this is a newer topic perhaps to you, I will go ahead and tackle the information side, if I may, for a little while, and then we'll move on from there to the restoration side, which is more enjoyable both to hear about and to share. So we'll do both tonight. So let's go ahead. So what is human trafficking? This is the legal definition: the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for the purpose of a commercial sex act, where such an act is induced by fraud, force, or coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such an act is under 18 years of age. And so much work is being done right now on the laws in Colorado to provide more help for victims, to recognize that they are not the perpetrators, they are truly victims. And so there are changes which are really fantastic taking place. As you'll see here, if someone is under 18, there doesn't have to be any force, fraud, or coercion proven. The mere fact that they are in that situation automatically makes them a victim under the law. And I would argue that the day after your 18th birthday, that does not change. Even though the law does change, we work with young women from the ages of 14 or 15 all the way up to, actually, we have a woman that has sought out a mentor, and she is in her late 50s and was trafficked in her youth, but is still dealing with the trauma of that. So the spread of that, there isn't an age limitation, I don't feel, on either side. Let's go ahead and look at some of the stats. So human trafficking is the second largest and fastest growing organized crime in the world. The tragedy of trafficking is it's not a one and done like a drug. It's something a young person can be sold repeatedly, and so those that would seek to do that have keyed into that awful reality. The average age of a girl being trafficked in the U.S. is 12 to 14, and that's a really hard one to swallow. $9.5 billion industry. A pimp can make over $35,000 in a month. 2.8 million children run away each year. This is huge. Within 48 hours of being on the street, 1/3 of those girls will be approached by a trafficker. So the vulnerabilities there are real. And then when you look at international, 600 to 8,000 people are trafficked across the borders each year. So over the world, we've got between 27 and 32 million employees. And I'm just trying to read the room. I don't see any kiddos, right? I just want to be really aware and careful about that. But what happens in Colorado, the girls that we work with, this is what is true, what they've shared with us. They're having to meet with 7 or 8 Johns a night, every night. So 1,800 events a year if you do the math on that. So in Colorado, they're saying $39 million is taking place right here, Denver, this area. We're in one of the top 5 states where this is happening. In 2014, we were a D. Shared Hope International is a really respectable organization out of Washington, D.C. that basically gives a grade to every state based on their laws and their help for survivors. And a lot of things have happened in the last few years to change that. Some fantastic folks in the legislature. We're up to a B, so that's great. We need to keep doing better with regard to our legislation. The Innocence Laws Task Force, which I'll be talking more about tonight, was founded in 2012, and they rescued 124 minors just this last year. So the Innocence Laws Task Force is a specialized task force within the FBI for Colorado. And in about 2010, 2011, the government said every major FBI unit has to have its own specialized task force for this issue, which is fantastic because it's really changed things. And we are honored and privileged to partner really closely with that task force out of Denver, but we work, the Springs all the way up to Greeley at times in the work that we do. So where does this happen? Again, I don't want to be redundant from last time, but massage parlors, all of these places aren't what they seem, is the reality of it. And most of you know that. It's not a massage parlor. It's not just a strip club. What's happening in truck stops, I thought you were going to have a speaker in a couple weeks. That's awesome what they're doing with the Truckers Against Trafficking. It's huge. So obviously on the streets, online is a big one. Pornography is a huge precursor. I know that's sometimes a tender topic, but it is something that rolls straight into the trafficking of children. And so that's one place where we say, what can we do? Where can we stop things? Stop it there, right, as a start. and get help there at bus stops and hotels, social media, employment ads of, looking for a cook, looking for a house cleaner, but that's not who she ends up becoming once she takes that job. So the internet, I know we hear about this a lot, but I don't think it can be said enough. We don't see as many girls on our street corners, right? But we do see them online on the Craigslist, those different places where we do some shopping, but that whole ad of dates and escorts and all of those things, all of that is just a front for trafficking. They actually have special pictures and emojis they'll put next to an ad. If you know what those are, the little smileys and whatnot, there's special ones that will actually indicate that this girl is younger than 18. So if you know what you're looking for, you can look through those ads very quickly and say, and that's where a lot of the FBI's time is spent, is in front of a screen looking at those ads and figuring out which gals, are most likely to be younger, and starting from there and working their way up to help them. And how is it happening? So a lot of people say, how does this happen? How does a girl end up here? So let's spend a little time there. There's always a vulnerability. There's a young person I talked about, if she's a runaway, if she has a brokenness in her life, in her history, he will seek that out and really woo her like a boyfriend would, with kind words and food and a place to stay and all of those things that are important when you're on your own and you're afraid. Shelter, those types of things. And then it's what I call a bait and switch. So once there's a reliance on him, maybe she's staying with him, or he knows things about her or her family or things that she cares about, he'll say, well, I've been providing all of this for you, and now you need to pay me back. It's your turn to, here's the debt that you owe, and this is how it will be paid. That's one methodology. Another is just a brutal force where there might be like a rape situation or something like that, or abuse or threats that is just all of a sudden, and he'll often take her out of her local community to do that bait and switch. So the girls are never just left in Colorado. The gal we worked with, has been in like 38 states, and that's always to disorient them. So that's why we talk a lot about Colorado being a hot spot, is because there's our corridors of I-25 and I-70 and these the international airport and all these different things. There's a whole network across the nation, so they're always passing girls through this chain. Las Vegas is one of their main goal destinations where they can make the most money with the girls. So it's all a really organized process to get them where they want them to go, and to have them always feeling like they don't know where they are, where to call, and being confused like that. So a couple things that you can do on this side of prevention. I'll just get down to this myself too. We always say, if you see something, say something. And you don't have to know. A girl who's been trafficked, I know she is. But you can think to yourself, this just doesn't feel right. This doesn't look right. I'm in a coffee shop. I'm at a gas station. There's a young woman who won't look at me, and there's an older man that's older than her that seems to be watching her or following her or in front of her, never beside her. Or there's just that sense of she may have a lot of tattoos. There's a lot of branding that happens with trafficking, where they'll actually give a specific tattoo to all of the girls that they have. I hate to even say working for them, because that's not true, but under their control. And so sometimes in your gut you just aren't sure, and you just maybe say, hey, how are you? Are you okay? And she just won't even respond to you. You can call these numbers and just say, this is where I was, this is what I saw. It's all you have to do. So you don't have to say, I know exactly what happened. Maybe if you are in a parking lot, there was a license plate, or, you can give some information like that. But this has actually helped save young people before. At 2 a.m. in the Walmart, if you happen to be there, in a 24-hour place like that, that sometimes those strange places that you just end up noticing something that doesn't feel right. So go ahead and share it, and they can take it from there and investigate and see if there's anything to what happened. And I will take questions at the end, so if anything's stirring in the back of your head like you're wondering about right now or want some clarification on, I'd be glad to share more. So let's look at kind of the Restore Innocence part of this. Go ahead. So our mission, awesome, sorry I can't tell what, all right, is to aid victims of human trafficking in the rescue, restoration, and reintegration process by looking at their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. And we do partner with you, local churches, other nonprofit organizations, local and national law enforcement, and concerned citizens. So this is really, you're the heart of how Restore Innocence can function. We have 4 part-time staff, and everything else is done by dedicated volunteers and donors. We are a 501c3 faith-based nonprofit, so this is the engine that keeps all of this work running. Is really the body of Christ. And I don't get to say that everywhere, but I can say that here, and it's truly the case. So I'm going to let one of our friends with that Innocence Lost Task Force give you a little snippet of what we do from her perspective on this short video.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Darr, and I'm a victim specialist with the FBI Denver Division and currently on the Innocence Lost Task Force, which works to rescue minors of human sex trafficking. We as law enforcement cannot do this alone. We need to partner with community agencies which provide vital resources for our victims. One of those agencies that we partner with is Restore Innocence, which is a faith-based organization that works to provide aftercare resources for our victims. A few of the programs that they have implemented include a mentorship program and restoration bags. The restoration bags have really essentially helped us with providing supplies for our girls, which include clothing, hygiene items, and other essential basic need items that have proven vital. Another program that they have is a mentorship program, which serves to provide aftercare once our cases are adjudicated in order for our girls to meet their goals and be successful to get into life and moving forward. Working and partnering together has proven to be vital in order to combat human trafficking at a global level.
So there was really a God-ordained intersection between the founders of Restore Innocence, who were learning more about trafficking in Colorado and said we have to make a difference, and the Innocence Lost Task Force. And God allowed that intersection about at the same time, where Restore was starting and the task force was starting, and we got to sit down with them and say, what are you seeing? What are your needs? How can we help? And that's always been our heart, to just keep asking those questions and to grow our programs out of that. And so the 2 things that they described that they needed were help for the girls as they were going through trial and beyond. They couldn't keep up with all of them. You know, they do the intake and the rescue, but then what's next, right? And the other thing that she said was, when we pick them up, they just have whatever's on their person, and that's it. And we'll talk more about that with the restoration bags. I won't get ahead of myself too much. But here they are. So the restoration bags, they provide that tangible assistance, as many of you already know. And I'm going to get there with mine too. For victims from the moment they're rescued, since 2012, we have helped over 2,500 survivors in 45 states. So what happened is we started with Ann and started that conversation and said, what can we do? She said, when we pick these kids up, it's usually at a hotel, it's usually a sting operation. So she thinks, you know, we were talking about the 7 to 8 acts a night, right? She thinks this is like one more, but then all of a sudden, wait, no, he's a cop, not a guy, and she's a cop, and oh my goodness, everything gets turned upside down, right? And it's a sting operation. So she's just kind of reeling and trying to figure out what's what, and then they say, okay, you now need to come with us to the police station for questioning, and we're going to help you, and all these things are happening, but they just take her as she is in that hotel room with them. And Ann said, we'll go by Walgreens and just get a hoodie because it's just so hard, you know, and it's not fair to her. Or she ends up with hospital scrubs on, or a uniform from the prison, right? And how awful is that after everything else? So we said we can do better than that, right? What do you need? What do these young people need? What would it look like to put together a bag that gives them what they need? So let's go ahead and go to that next one. And I want to just read this to you. I know it's long, but I want you to hear this because this is who you are. I wanted to thank you for sending the restoration bags. And I also wanted to let you know that the day after I received the items, we received a 16-year-old girl with no socks or coat. She was so excited to have socks and a warm blanket, but most of all, she loved the stuffed animal in her bag. I'll grab that. She held on to that stuffed animal through the interview, and in all of our follow-up meetings, she was holding it next to her face. I just wanted to let you know how important these items are and how thankful our task force is to have received them from your agency. About 95% of the young people we work with, if not more, their trafficking isn't the first worst thing that's happened in their life. They probably have a history of brokenness and sexual abuse that dates well into their childhood, which has created a vulnerability that makes them less cognizant maybe of what we teach our kids as stranger danger, and some of those things, those barriers have been broken previously. So this isn't just, oh, it's cute to have an animal. This is something that says, I see you, I see that child, right, that maybe never got to have a stuffed animal of her own, and that needs a little bit of comfort right now when all hell has broken loose once again in her life. And so this is, every single item that goes inside this bag is there for a reason, and that's why we have this list, and we want it to be these things. And we get a lot of questions about that, and that's okay, but there's a reason for every item that goes into the bag, and this is why this guy goes in there. We've started making bags for boys as well, and young men, and in place of a stuffed animal, there is a small fleece pillow, because it's still something to hold at night, but it doesn't feel so awkward, right, for a boy to carry around his bear, but it serves that purpose of comfort in much the same way. So that's that little guy. The other thing that happens is I described that hotel room scene that's so awful, and the victim specialists have told us they've actually started taking the blanket with them into that hotel room. And they will take that, and I can never say this without crying, so I will, but they just wrap that girl in that blanket, right? Just the first thing that she gets. And so you pray over these, because I had a girl tell me, I got that blanket, and I just felt comfort and peace. And I said, that's Jesus, right? That's what he does. That's who he is. That's saying, I see you. So that's what these blankets do. And then she gets to the station, and she gets to take off whatever awful things that she had on, and she gets to put on her hoodie, right, and her sweatpants like our teen girls and your youth girls run around with when they're having a comfy night, and just things that fit her that are fresh and new and clean. And they don't say things like sexy or XO across the bottom, right, all that crazy stuff. And then she pulls this out. This is her hygiene pack. And I had one of the agents tell me that as a punishment, one of the girls she helped was not allowed to brush her teeth. So that's what I do every morning before I do anything else. And I think of her, and I just think, Alicia said she just took this bag into the bathroom and she did not come out for a long time. And she just got to be fresh and clean, and then she's got to go answer all these crazy questions, and her trafficker has told her, you're 18, and this is what your name is, and if anybody ever asks you, this is what you say, and if you don't, you're a goner, right, in a very mild sense, but probably in a much harsher sense. And even if you get me put in jail, my friend will come find you. And so she has to sit down, and they're saying, what's your name? How old are you? What happened to you? What did she do? You know, sometimes the victim specialist will take several hours talking with them just to try to get them to establish some trust. And you know what they've told us? Is that this bag can be that icebreaker. It can be that difference between, oh, I've got to tell them exactly what I'm supposed to tell them, and maybe they see me. Maybe they care about me. Maybe I'll try, right? And two girls got brought in together, and the first one got her bag, and the second one came in the room, not making this up, and the first one looked at her and said, check this out. Do you think we should talk to them? I think we should talk to them, right? So there's so much that this does. The other thing that Restore Innocence provides is mentoring, like Ann talked about, and that's that long-term relationship with the survivor where we really walk beside them through their healing and recovery. And as was mentioned, I was the director of this program for a while. It's really close to my heart. But I'll tell you a few things about what that mentoring does. So we match trained, accountable mentors with Colorado survivors for a 2-year minimum commitment. I say minimum because our hope is that we'll be engaged with that young woman. We just specifically mentor young women. We're hoping to move into helping boys too in this way. But we say our door is always open. It will never shut. If you want to walk out of it, you can, but you come right back in whenever you're ready. And we've had girls Facebook her mentor after a year of silence and say, hey, I just thought I'd tell you I'm going to have a baby. Okay, do you want to come to the shower? You know, just, hey, I was digging through all my stuff to find your phone number. Because these mentors don't get paid, they're not part of the government. There's something that these girls realize they're just in it for me. But it takes a good, I'm not kidding, a good year to even get to that spot where they think she's not just in it for her, or like, what's the catch, right? This other person, who we think, oh, I'll give you a hot meal, I'll give you something nice, you know, to wear. Okay, well, doesn't that sound familiar? Right? Didn't I describe that to you 20 minutes ago? So she's like, yeah, I bet you will, right? And not all traffickers it's not always the man that's approaching her. He'll usually have one girl whose job it is to go get other girls, and she darn better, or she has all the pay. And so she's going to go and say, hey, are you okay? I noticed, are you sleeping out in the street? Because we have a house. There's some girls, like, we all live together. Do you want to just come stay with us? Right? And so, yeah, sure she does, of course. So it's not just, oh, don't trust guys, trust girls, right? It's just all messed up, honestly, at that point for them. So it takes that time to make sure they realize we're there for you. We deal with the emotional, we deal with the physical, we deal with the relational, all in the context of relationship. So it's within that we make those decisions for her. We often start as that only person. A girl was in the hospital. Who did she put on her form as a point of contact? Her mentor, right? That's the only person she had. There's not even a distant relative. Like, that's who we become. We also want to not stay that only person. We want to introduce her to a healthy community, a church community, whatever that looks like for her, to help her figure out life. So it's not just that person forever, right? That's not healthy. So it's part of that process of getting her reconnected. One huge thing that it does is I often get asked, well, what's your success rate or whatever? And I don't know what number to tell you for that, but I can tell you that having a mentor significantly reduces the risk of recidivism for a young woman. Because when she feels like, I have no money, I have nowhere to turn, maybe I'll just go for one night, right? Because I know that he made $1,000 a night off me. What could I do with $1,000? I could go get tires for my car. Girl told me that, right? So I'll just go one night, right? Or 2 nights. Or I'll just go dance at the club for a little while, just for a couple weeks. And then it just all snowballs down and they're trapped again. So she has that mentor that she can call that night and say, I can't do this. Yes, you can. We can do this. We're going to figure this out together. I'll go with you tomorrow, right? And that's that crucial point that if she didn't have that person to call, she most likely would just start making this snowball of really bad choices because she doesn't know what else to do. We want to remain in that lifelong contact. The young woman that I mentored, and it doesn't always work this way, but I've known her for over 6 years. She's coming down this weekend. We're hanging out. She comes to our holidays. Somebody asks her, what are you doing for Christmas? She goes, I'm going to hang out with my family, right? And so it can become that. Again, it doesn't always, but that's our hope, is that she'll figure out that we care that much and we're in it for the long haul. So I have another video for you, and it's of a gal that was in our program just sharing about what it meant to her.
I felt like a forgotten child. I felt like a bunch of trash put in a trash bag that was picked up and dropped off on everybody's doorstep. Like, nobody cared. I was on the streets and I wasn't even reported missing. I remember being 14 years old, walking Colfax with bruises and a pimp in front of me, you know what I'm saying? And I remember seeing all the little cars and nobody stopped. You know what I mean? Like, I was being sexually taken advantage day in and day out and nobody knew about it. And the thing was, is I didn't know I deserved any better. And then these guys, quote unquote, come into your life and they're like, we love you, we're gonna protect you. Like, they give you this false safety net. And then they just turn on you. And then the next thing you know, you're locked in a hotel bathroom. I think I went through like 7 different placements that Michelle and Restore Innocence followed me through. And we're not talking like nice placements, we're talking rehabs, treatment centers, detoxes, and the whole time, like, here's the beauty of Restore Innocence, is that he never judged me. She would just tell me that, like, I deserved more and that God loved me. Because I had the mentor program, like, there was somebody at my graduation. Things that would have never happened before happened for me. I have somebody to celebrate my birthday, which didn't happen ever before. I have somebody to celebrate a sober birthday. I have somebody that will love me when I can't stand myself. I have somebody that will always speak light into whatever darkness surrounds me, and that's what the mentor program is. My life without Restore Innocence, to be honest with you, I don't think I would be alive. And that's not dramatic, like, that is what it is.
So HOPE is the acronym we use for the mentor program, and the H is Healing Hearts. So some of the things we provide are counseling, equine therapy, art therapy, meals with your mentor. So much healing takes place just sitting across the table and listening. O is for occasions, a birthday party, a Christmas gift, a freedom milestone. We had a young woman tell her mentor, it's coming on a year since I escaped. I want to celebrate that. And so they had a year of freedom celebration together, where they were able to go up to the mountains with a few friends and commemorate just the beauty from ashes that God was doing in her restoration journey. So whatever that looks like for each girl, she gets to figure out what those milestones are and how she wants them celebrated. Physical is just the things you think of, the food, the rental systems, the transportation, new moms. We have 3 girls in our program with little ones right now, or on the way or just here, so that's a whole new world for each of them. And then the education, life skills classes, enrichment, college courses. So if a girl's trafficked from ages 12, 13, 14 to 16, 17, right, she missed junior high school, so figuring out a GED, what the best steps are for her so that she can get through that education piece, that's all in there. And this is actually Catherine and I, and she's okay with me sharing that because she comes sometimes and even speaks with me together. So, and that's another gal that's graduated from a program with her mentor there on the left, so Christina and Taylor. So that's a lot in a short amount of time. I have just a couple minutes for any pressing questions. About 5 minutes, I'd be glad to answer those. Yes?
What's the ratio today between male and female?
The ratio, we're still figuring that out. What's the ratio between male and female? So there was a bust a couple months ago, and I think that out of 24 rescues just in Colorado from that, 13 were boys. They're just figuring out how boys are being trafficked and how to help them and how to find them. So we don't have a good number yet because there's obviously a lot more than we know, but they're just figuring that out, I guess. So I've heard it could be up to half, but we just don't know it yet because the focus has been more on girls in this last few years. So I don't have a great answer, but I think there's more than we realize.
There's a saying that I have lived by most of my life, which is you'll miss more by not looking than you will by not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Where have I missed actually seeing something that was suspicious that was right in front of me, but I just wasn't looking?
So he's saying, where has he maybe missed something because he just didn't know what to look for? The odd thing is, girls are so, and I say girls because that's kind of my paradigm, but it's all about a mental control. So a pimp could take her almost anywhere, but she knows that there's no chance that she's going to escape because he's from here to the back of the room, right, at any time. So the short answer is you could see her about anywhere. You could see her at a fast food restaurant. You could see her at the mall. You could see her, sometimes she's going to look really nice because he's got her all jazzed up, right? So maybe too nice. At the Starbucks, these are places that they go, but it's always with someone in the background watching. So that's where it's hard to exactly define, but if it feels wrong, like just, look up that hotline number and just make a call. And again, this is what I saw. How boyfriends and girlfriends act in the Starbucks, right? It's not like that. There's definitely more of a control or a watching and a heads down, and it might be two girls even together. So it's that dynamic, I guess, is probably the easiest thing to spot. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. And sometimes we think, oh, it's only in the seedy parts of town, but the gal I worked with said she was trafficked into the nicest hotels of the Springs because they do all of the buying and selling online and then just arrange a location. So you don't always think it's in this bad part of town, I should be looking for this. It could be walking through the Homewood Suites or whatever, it could be any of those places at the Broadmoor.
Where does the money transfer?
Mm-hmm. So the money transfer, if it touches the girl's hands, it'll go from the John to the girl directly to the pimp, and he knows how much she was purchased for, right? So he makes sure that she turns all of that directly over to him after each act.
I was going to mention, you mentioned the phone numbers. Are we going to put it back on?
Yeah.
Because I didn't catch it earlier.
Sure.
I'll give it to you. I got to go back there and do it.
All right, very good. Okay.
He was not with tonight, the victims with their families.
Yeah, do we reenact victims with their families? Definitely. So if it's an FBI or law enforcement case, that's the first thing they're going to ask is, where did she come from? And could she get back? Was it a family that had no idea and they're looking for her? Or were they complicit? So they do all of that background, and that's going to be the first goal is getting her back somewhere known and safe to her. And even if she does need to go to a rehab or an aftercare facility, would her, family be aware and okay with that, if they're part of it. So yeah, they do look into all of that at the beginning stages. Yeah.
What do the bags look like for the boys?
Mm-hmm.
And
what is a bag for boys?
And can you get that information to us?
Yes. So what does a bag look like for a boy? It's similar to what you see, but obviously guys' version of hygiene, guys' version of clothing. They still get a blanket, and then we put in like a deck of cards or those little fidget cubes that all the kids like to play with, something like that. I don't have the list with me, but it's on our website, restoreinnocence.org, and the pamphlets have our website on the back, and the what we do section has both the girls and boys lists.
I'm sure there are a lot of other questions. Excuse us. I'm sure there are a lot of other questions, and Lindy is going to be available afterwards to be able to help answer some of those questions that you might have as well. But I just want to say, after listening, I just want to thank you in restoring it. You guys are on the front lines of a lot of this, and the heart that you have, and the way that you're able to see really the God value in each one of these kids is really inspiring, at least for me. So let's could you help me in thanking Lindy. And there is some information, we do have, if you want to be a part of the restoration bags that we're doing during this season of Lent, we do have information on our fellowship hall windows. Just as you're walking down the hallway, it's going to be on your right-hand side. If you want to be able to donate for those bags, our United Methodist women and some others are helping to put those bags together. And so as we get donations, we're putting those bags together. Our goal is to have 60 bags by Easter, so we can celebrate that together on Easter Sunday. Now our kids have something for Lindy and the others that she works with at Restore Innocence, because you have 3 other staff members, right? And then about 12 volunteers.
12 mentors, yeah.
12 mentors, and so they've got little bags for them. You guys make sure that the survivors have bags. Well, we've got some bags for you as well. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for coming. Next week, we're going to be back here again, 6 o'clock for soup. 6:45, we are going to have a speaker for, I think it's Truckers for Trafficking, Against Trafficking, sorry. One little word. Truckers Against Trafficking. So we want to make sure that you are also back and join us for that as well. So thank you so much for coming and being a part of this with us. Lindy will be sticking around a little bit longer, and God bless you as you go home. Just be God's eyes as you go home from this place. Amen.